Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the 4 Out 1 In podcast with your host, George Hamilton III. This episode is going to be a little bit different. My co host, Carlos Costas, just came back from Washington as he just finished school at Gonzaga. So he's taking this episode off and he'll be back on the next one. But this is just going to be run by me. And we're just going to go through the second round matchups and I'm going to talk about possible keys to the matchup to the conference finals matchups between the Boston Celtics and Miami Heat in the Eastern Conference and the Golden State Warriors and the Dallas Mavericks in the Western Conference. To start off the recaps for the second round, I'm going to start off with the series between the Heat and the Sixers, in which the Heat won 4-2. The Sixers won game 3, 99-79, and game 4, 116-1 away at home, while the Heat won game 5, 120-85 at home. And then they won on the road in game 6, 99-90. As we both said in the last episode, Carlos and I, we both had the Heat in sixth. And as for game 3, Jimmy Butler had 33 points and 10 rebounds on 12 of 22 shooting. Tyler Hero had 14 points, but shot 5 of 15 from the field. And the Heat as a team shot 27 of 77 from the field and 7 of 30 from three as they got out rebounded 43-36. And for the Sixers in game 3, Joel Embiid shot 5 of 12 and had 18 points and 11 rebounds in his return to the court, while Tyrese Maxey had 21 points and 6 assists on 7 of 11 shooting. Danny Green also added 21 points and shot 7 of 9 from three, which were all of his baskets. In game 4, Jimmy Butler had 40 points and 6 assists, or 6 rebounds, my bad, on 13 of 20 shooting from the field, and Bam Adebayo had 21 points and 7 rebounds on 9 of 12 from the field. For the Heat, it was another poor shooting night from three from the rest of the supporting cast outside of Jimmy Butler. And for the Sixers, it was a great game from Embiid as he shot 7 of 13 from the field and had 24 points and 11 rebounds. James Harden, we finally got an MVP caliber performance from James Harden as he had 31 points and 9 assists, in which he shot 8 of 18 from the field and 6 of 10 from three. But as I said, we got a glimpse of MVP Harden in the fourth quarter. And Tyrese Maxey also added 18 points and shot 50% from the field. In game 5, for the Heat, Jimmy Butler led the way with 23 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists on 9 of 15 from the field and 2 of 4 from three. Max Strus also added 19 points and 10 rebounds on 7 of 13 from the field and 4 of 10 from three. Gabe Vincent added 15 points as the Heat had 7 people in double figures, and their bench outscored the Sixers bench 41-27. As for the Sixers in this game, Joel Embiid had 17 points and 5 rebounds as he shot 7 of 12 from the field, but James Harden, Tobias Harris, and Maxey struggled from the field, with Maxey shooting 2 of 10, Harris shooting 5 of 14, and Harden shooting 5 of 13. As a team, the Sixers in game 5 shot 36%, and they only made 9 of their 32 attempted threes. And in the closeout game 6, the Heat were led by Jimmy Butler, who had a stat line of 32 points, 8 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 13 of 29 from the field and 2 of 6 from three. Max Strus was played the biggest game of his career so far, providing 20 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists while shooting 6 of 14 from the field and 4 of 10 from three. The rest of the supporting cast did their thing as 5 players scored in double figures, and the Heat as a team out-rebounded the Sixers 49-35, including a 13-6 edge on the offensive glass. For the Sixers, Joel Embiid had 20 points and 12 rebounds, but struggled from the field, shooting 7 of 24 and 2 of 8 from three. Tyrese Maxey also had 20 points, shooting 9 of 22 from the field and 1 of 7 from three. But the biggest story of game 6 was James Harden only having 11 points, shooting 4 of 9 from the field and 3 of 7 from three, but he only attempted 2 shots in the second half and had 0 free throw attempts all game. In this series, the Heat played very good defense on pretty much everyone outside of probably Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey probably had, I'd say, good enough performances. There were times where he rushed his shots, but he had probably the most solid performances. And then outside of Embiid coming back into game three, I mean, he had pretty good performances outside of the game 5 blowout. But if you're the Sixers, I mean, there's a lot of questions going into this offseason, which I mean, I will talk with my co-host over the course of after the NBA finals and the offseason. But there's multiple things the Sixers need to discuss in terms of the front office and contract situations and all of that. From there, we'll move on, and I'm going to talk about the Heat and their success and what they need to do in their matchup against the Celtics after I go through all of the second round matchups. But for now, I'm going to move on to the Western Conference first round, second round, that also ended in 6 games with the Warriors and the Grizzlies. The Warriors won the series 4-2, as Carlos and I both had the Warriors in 6. And to finish out the rest of this series, the Warriors won game 3 and game 4 at home. They won game 3, 142-112, and game 4, 101-98. While the Grizzlies won game 5 at home, 134-95. And then the Warriors closed out the series with a 110-96 win in game 6. In game 3, Curry had 30 points and 6 assists on 7 of 14 from the field and 2 of 8 from 3. Jordan Poole had 27 points on 11 of 17 from the field, including 3 of 5 from 3. Clay had 21 points on 8 of 14 shooting and shots 4 of 6 from 3. As for the Grizzlies, Ja Morant had 34 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists, shooting 13 of 21 from the field and 4 of 7 from 3. But he got injured in the fourth quarter in a controversial play that had basically all of NBA talking for the rest of this series. Desmond Bane also had 16 points, shooting 5 of 10 from the field and 4 of 7 from 3. As for, I'll just talk about it now. I mean, it's already in the past, but I didn't see the Jordan Poole incident as a dirty play. I know Jordan Poole isn't a dirty player, but I mean, it was just an interesting point of the conversation after it happened, with Ja tweeting broke the code, especially after what happened with Dillon Brooks and Gary Payton the second in game 2. So that play, it was, the Grizzlies kind of thought it was payback for what had happened in game 2, but I didn't see it that way, and I don't think Jordan Poole was a dirty player and didn't mean it at all. But we'll continue on with game 4, in which Stephen Curry, I should say, let me call him by his full name, had 32 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists on 10 of 25 shooting from the field and 4 of 14 from 3. Andrew Wiggins proved to be vital in this game, scoring 17 points, shooting 7 of 13 from the field, and grabbing 10 rebounds. As for the Grizzlies, Jaren Jackson had 21 points and 5 rebounds, but shot 7 of 21 from the field and went 0 of 7 from 3. Tyus Jones had 19 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists, shooting 8 of 18 from the field and 3 of 7 from 3. This game was pretty, I won't say bad to watch, but it had the feeling of a very turnover appealing game. The Warriors were turning the ball over uncharacteristically, and both teams were missing their three-pointers at a kind of not normal clip, as they both shot under 26% from the 3. I think the Warriors only had like 9 of 37%. They only made like 9 of their 37 attempted threes, and the Grizzlies, I think, made like 7 of their 35 threes or something like that. In game 5, I didn't really watch just because I was kind of out with my parents, but I didn't even bother watching the highlights because I already, just from what I was seeing on Twitter and my notifications from different sporting apps that I have, the Memphis Grizzlies dominated this game from start to finish. Uh, the Warriors turned the ball over 22 times, and I think their starters got benched in the fourth quarter as it was like 119 to like 67 after the third quarter. So I mean, I'm glad I didn't watch it because it was probably going to be a waste of time. But overall, Memphis shot 47.5% from the field and 44% from three in game five, as game five was basically a team effort win. But we all knew the Warriors were overdue for a we gotta get this team out the way type of game. And even though the Warriors had 17 turnovers in game six, with many of them being unforced, they got game six Clay back. Or I should say game six Clay appeared, who went 11 of 22 from the field and 8 of 14 from three, as well as Stephen Curry having 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on 10 of 27 shooting from the field. But this game was very close until midway through the fourth quarter, where Wiggins had a series of defensive possessions that helped the Warriors blow the game open, as he had 18 points to go along with 11 rebounds. And as I said, game six Clay appeared as he got hot late down the stretch. And I want to give some flowers to Kevon Looney, who played the biggest game of his career, probably getting 22 rebounds, especially one. I think it was, I want to say like 3 or 4 minutes left. He got like 4 offensive rebounds for the Warriors, and the last offensive rebound led to a Klay Thompson three, which basically was a dagger for them to for Clay to send them to the Western Conference Finals. As I said, for the Grizzlies in game six, Dillon Brooks led the way with 30 points, shooting 11 of 28 from the field and 7 of 15 from three. And Desmond Bane had 25 points, shooting 9 of 16 from the field and 4 of 7 from three, as he also grabbed 7 rebounds. But you could tell in this game, late down the stretch, that Ja Morant not being there kind of hurt, especially looking back at game 4-2, which was very close. Both games, they didn't know who to go to down the stretch, and it kind of, you could tell that they were missing Ja Morant on the court, as he's kind of the playmaker and scorer and can be the scorer, as we seen in game, what was that, two? I think that was game two. So yeah, them not having Ja Morant for the rest of this series kind of hurt them, especially in game four and game six, because they were missing their leader. And as for that, as I said with the Miami Heat, I'll look at the Warriors' keys to making it to the finals from the Western Conference Finals. But I'll move on to the two series that had game sevens, starting with Boston and Milwaukee. Carlos and I both had the Celtics in six. Obviously, the series went seven. And as I said, I wasn't surprised that this series went seven. I kind of was expecting it, but Boston could have ended this series honestly in five with a couple of mishaps and bad stretches in the fourth quarter, but they ended up getting the job done anyways. But the Bucks won game three at home 103 to 101, and the Celtics won game four 116 to 108. And then the Bucks won game five 110 to 107. And the Celtics won game six 108 to 95, and in game seven 109 to 81. In game three, Giannis had 42 points, 12 rebounds, and 8 assists on 16 of 30 from the field. And Jrue Holiday had 25 points, 7 rebounds, and 3 assists on 11 of 30 shooting from the field and 3 of 10 from three. Brown and Horford came to play, however, for the Celtics, with Brown scoring 27 points and grabbing 12 rebounds, shooting 8 of 16 from the field and making 10 of 11 of his free throws, while Horford scored 22 points and grabbed 16 rebounds, shooting 9 of 17 from the field and 4 of 7 from three. Tatum struggled in game 3, however, only having 10 points and shooting 4 of 19 from the field, as well as missing all 6 of his threes. In game 4, Giannis had 28 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists on 40% shooting from the field on 27 attempts. Drew Holiday had 19 points and 7 rebounds. I think seven assists, my bad, on 35 points on 35% shooting, as the Bucks made only 3 threes. The Celtics shot 50%. While the Celtics shot 50% from the field, they shot 38% from 3 on 37 attempts. Tatum had 30 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists from the field, and on 11 of 24 shooting, and shot 3 of 10 from 3. And Horford had 30 points and 8 rebounds, shooting 11 of 14 from the field and 5 of 7 from 3. Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart both pitched in 18 points, as Smart also had 8 assists. In game 5, Giannis had 40 points, 11 rebounds, and 3 assists on 16 of 27 shooting from the field, and 3 of 6 from 3, including a huge 3 late in game 5 to tie the game with under, I think, a minute and a half left. And Drew Holiday had 24 points, 8 rebounds, and 8 assists on 9 of 24 shooting and 4 of 7 from 3, including having 2 of the biggest plays late in the game with a block on Marcus Smart that was I think to tie the game or make it a 1-point game. And then he stole the ball from Marcus Smart late in the backcourt when the Celtics had a chance to tie it. For the Celtics, Tatum and Brown showed up, with Tatum scoring 34 points and grabbing 6 rebounds while shooting 12 of 29 from the field and making 8 of 9 free throws, but he only made 2 of his 11 threes. Brown, on the other hand, had 26 points, 8 rebounds, and 6 assists, shooting 9 of 19 from the field and 3 of 7 from 3. Marcus Smart had 15 points to go along for the Celtics, but had 2 costly plays late, as I mentioned, Drew Holiday being the defender on both of those plays. And the demoralizing part of game 5, in my opinion, was the missed free throw by Giannis. I think it was like 40 seconds left, and Bobby Portis got the rebound and put it back in. I thought that loss that they had leading the entire way and then basically losing in the final 2 to 3 minutes of that game, I thought the series was over. But in game 6, Tatum had his breakout performance, having 46 points, 9 rebounds, and 4 assists, shooting 17 of 32 from the field and 7 of 15 from 3. Jaylen Brown also had 22 points, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists on 7 of 16 from the field and 4 of 7 from 3. And Marcus Smart had 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists on 8 of 16 from the field and 5 of 9 from 3, including some big threes down the stretch. For the Bucks, Giannis had 44 points, 20 rebounds, and 6 assists on 14 of 30 from the field and made 2 of his threes. And he became the second person, became the first player since Shaq to put up a 40, 20, and 5 game. And Drew Holiday had 17 points on 7 of 17 from the field and 3 of 10 from 3, as the Bucks only made 7 of their 29 attempted threes. And in game 7, Grant Williams was the hero for the Celtics, scoring 27 points and shooting 10 of 22 from the field and hitting 7 of his 18 attempted threes, the most threes attempted in a game 7 since Steph Curry. I can't remember what year exactly off the top of my head, and I forgot to put it in my notes. Tatum also pitched in a stat line of 23 points, 6 rebounds, and 8 assists, shooting 7 of 14 from the field and 5 of 9 from 3. And Brown also had 19 points and 8 rebounds, shooting 8 of 16 from the field. For the Bucks, Giannis had 25 points, 20 rebounds, and 9 assists on 10 of 16 shooting from the field and 1 of 4 from 3. And Drew Holiday had 21 points, 5 rebounds, and 8 assists on 9 of 24 shooting from the field. Brook Lopez also pitched in 15 points, shooting 6 of 12 from the field, but the Bucks only hit 4 of their 33 attempted threes, with the role players once again underperforming and the Bucks not making the threes, while the Celtics at least made their average number of threes. And that's for this series. I think that's what it came down to, is just the Celtics role players stepping up in game 6 and game 7, and the Bucks underperforming, especially. I mean, it probably would have been a different series had Chris Middleton been there. I think he would have played a pivotal part in what the Bucks did offensively. But this loss doesn't stain Giannis and his career right now, because it's pretty obvious that if he had Middleton there, he probably would have won, because he did his part offensively and defensively. I mean, he averaged, I want to say, like close to 30 points, if not more than 30 points, and probably 13 or 14 rebounds a game. And I mean, he was doing it all this series from game 1 to game 7, just doing it all. But his teammates sometimes didn't step up. And as I said in the last episode, they were going to need games from guys like Bobby Portis and Grayson Allen. And that just never happened throughout the series, while the Celtics were getting monster games from Al Horford, Grant Williams, obviously in game 7. Marcus Smart played well in a lot of the games, except for obviously the game 5 blunder. And I mean, that's what this series came down to, was just the Celtics role players making plays late. Got to give a shout out to Peyton Pritchard, because he came through in the clutch in game 7 with a big offensive rebound and got the crowd into it, as they basically dominated game 7 from start to, well, I shouldn't say from start to finish, but from the second half on. And with that being said, we'll move on to the last series, my bad, between the Suns and the Mavericks, which was the shocking series of round 2, with the Mavs winning the series 4-3. The Mavs won a series recap. The Mavs won game 3, 103-94, and game 4, 111-101, with the Suns winning game 5, 110-80. And then the Mavericks won game 6, 113-86, and game 7, 123-90. Obviously, Carlos and I had the Suns in 6, probably like a lot of people in the NBA community. I didn't look at the ESPN writers and see what their predictions were for this series, but I'm pretty sure a lot of them had Suns in probably 6 or 7. But we'll just do a series recap. In game 3, Jay Crowder led the Suns in scoring with a stat line of 19 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, shooting 7 of 12 from the field and 5 of 8 from 3. Devin Booker also dropped 18 points and had 6 assists, shooting 6 of 13 from the field and 4 of 6 from 3. Chris Paul had 12 points, but he also had 7 turnovers, all in the first half, which led to the Suns having 17 turnovers as a team. For the Mavericks, Luka had 26 points, 13 rebounds, and 9 assists, shooting 11 of 25 from the field and 2 of 7 from 3. Jalen Brunson had 28 points, 4 assists, and 5 rebounds, shooting 10 of 21 from the field and making 1 of his 5 attempted threes. In game 4, Booker had 35 points, 4 rebounds, and 7 assists, shooting 10 of 22 from the field and 3 of 6 from 3, and he made 12 of his 13 free throws. CP3 dealt with foul trouble all game, as he only scored 5 points and fouled out early in the 4th, as the Mavericks did a good job of hunting him while he was on defense and basically tiring him out. I'm gonna be honest, as a CP3 fan, I kind of disagreed with the 6th foul, but we can move on. For the Mavericks, Luka had 26 points, 7 rebounds, and 11 assists, shooting 9 of 25 from the field and 1 of 10 from 3. Dorian Finney-Smith had his breakout game with 24 points and 8 rebounds, shooting 8 of 12 from 3, which were all of his made baskets. And Jalen Brunson also added 18 points as the Mavs made 20 of their 44 attempted threes. In game 5, Devin Booker led the Suns in scoring with a stat line of 28 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 11 of 20 from the field and 3 of 7 from 3. DeAndre Ayton had 20 points and 9 rebounds, shooting 9 of 13 from the field, as the Suns dominated this game from start to finish, especially in the second half. Let me say that. For the Mavericks, Luka had 28 points, 11 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 10 of 23 from the field and 2 of 8 from 3. Jalen Brunson had 21 points, 7 rebounds, and 2 assists, shooting 9 of 17 from the field. Moving on to game 6, DeAndre Ayton led the Suns in scoring with 21 points and 11 rebounds, shooting 10 of 16 from the field. And Devin Booker had 19 points and 8 rebounds, but he only shot 6 of 17 from the field and had 8 turnovers. For the Mavericks, Luka had 33 points, 11 rebounds, and 8 assists on 11 of 26 from the field and 2 of 8 from 3. Jalen Brunson dropped 18 points on 6 of 14 from the field, but the biggest contributor to this game for the Mavericks was Reggie Bullock, who had 19 points and 7 rebounds on 7 of 15 from shooting from the field and 5 of 11 from 3. The Mavericks made 41% of their threes, shooting 16 of 19, and only turned the ball over 6 times compared to the Suns' 22 turnovers to the 22 turnovers from the Suns, excuse me. As I said early on in the series, the Mavs, if they had a shot, they were going to have to play solid defense and make make a majority of their shots, especially from 3, in which they did, at least in game 4, 6, and 7, as they made 40% of their threes, and they got great contributions from obviously Luka Doncic. They got good contributions from Jalen Brunson. And then as we seen in game 6, Reggie Bullock. And then as I'm about to mention in game 7, Spencer Dinwiddie finally showed up. And we can just move on to game 7. As I mean, the Suns just had a horrific game. I don't even have any of their stats on here. I think their leading scorer was like Cam Johnson with 12 points, but it was just a horrendous game from start to finish for the Suns. One you want to not even look back on if you're a Suns fan. I mean, the Dallas Mavericks just came out hot, straight firing from 3. Luka hit like every shot he was looking at early on in that game. And I think at half it was like 57-27, and the game was basically over by the second quarter. It was like a 20-point game. And I mean, while we've seen leads evaporate in playoff games before, this game that lead was not going to be blown by the Mavericks, as the Suns could barely hit anything in the first half, excuse me. But in game 7, Luka Doncic had 35 points, 10 rebounds, and 4 assists on 12 of 19 shooting from the field and 6 of 11 from 3. Jalen Brunson had 24 points on 11 of 19 from the field and 2 of 4 from 3. But the surprising contributor, as I said earlier, was Spencer Dinwiddie, who had 30 points off the bench on 11 of 15 shooting from the field and 5 of 7 from 3. As I said earlier in this game, Dallas led at the half 57-27 and dominated from the opening jump ball. And I think their biggest lead was like 46 points in the third quarter. It was just a bad game on all aspects. One game that a lot of people did not expect for the Suns to come out the way they did. And I mean, the Suns, as I said, with the Sixers, they have a lot of contract negotiations they have to do, especially with DeAndre Ayton. And I mean, it's just back to the drawing board for them because, as I said earlier, as I said, as people have mentioned on Twitter, the Suns kind of got lucky last year with all the injuries that happened in the playoffs. Obviously, last year, AD got hurt in the first round. They faced Nikola Jokic without Jamal Murray in the second round, and then obviously they faced the Clippers without Kawhi Leonard in the Western Conference Finals. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do and see what happens for them next season. And I guess we can move on. I can move on to my predictions for the Eastern Conference Finals and Western Conference Finals. And I can give you Carlos's predictions as well. For me, I have the Celtics winning in 6 for the Eastern Conference Finals. And in the Western Conference Finals, I have the Warriors winning in 6. And Carlos gave me his predictions as I'm going to look now. And he said Warriors in 6 and Heat in 7. For the Celtics in the Eastern in the Eastern Conference Finals matchup for the Celtics, it's going to come. Their game plan is going to be simple. Try to neutralize Jimmy Butler on the defensive end and have other players try to beat you collectively. As for my point of view, they have not been good on the road in the playoffs outside of the game 4 win versus Atlanta and the game 6 closeout win in Philly. The Heat have not looked good outside of Jimmy Butler. The team as a whole has struggled offensively. And as I said, outside of Jimmy Butler, he's been the only guy that's relatively scored on the road. So it's going to be interesting to see what they do in game 3 and 4 when they play in Boston. And as for the offensive game plan for the Celtics, you're going to get games from Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. But as I said, throughout the Nets series and the series versus the Bucks, they're going to need guys like Marcus Smart, Al Horford, Grant Williams to really play a big role. And as for the Heat, defensively, try to figure out a way to try to neutralize. I'd say you're not going to shut them down, but neutralize Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and try to force other players to beat you. And I mean, they have the game plan to do it, but I mean, it's going to be a stalemate type of game. I feel like there's only going to be a handful of games that probably break the 100 to 110. I shouldn't say a few. I'd say there's going to be probably, I'd say if this series is going 6, probably 3 of the 6 games will at least crack 100. Maybe will crack 110 points, but for the most part, this is going to be a defensive series. Both teams, I think, were, I want to say, top 5 in defensive rating. So I mean, it's going to be a stalemate. And as for the Western Conference, I mean, Carlos and we both have the Warriors in 6. And as for the Warriors, I mean, they're gonna get Steve Kerr back starting on Wednesday, as he missed the last 3 games of the second round series versus Memphis. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how they play in the first game with Steve Kerr back, because they had a lot of unforced turnovers in the last 3 games against Memphis. And they were playing at a pace that they normally, I mean, they play at a fairly high pace, but the unforced turnovers and uncharacteristic turnovers that the Warriors had in the last 3 games of that series, I don't think you're going to see as much of that in this series as opposed to the last 3 games of the second round series. I mean, you're going to get games from Stephen Curry. Hopefully Jordan Poole shows up. Or not hopefully Jordan Poole shows up, because I know he will. But I feel like the X factors in this series, I should say, are going to be Andrew Wiggins and Klay Thompson. You're going to need at least some good 20-point, at least a few 20-point games from Klay Thompson. And you're going to need at least Wiggins to be a at least 15 to 18 point per game scorer in this series and play lockdown defense on both sides, as he's our lockdown defense, as he's probably going to get the Luka Doncic assignment. And if you're the Mavs, offensively, I mean, do what you did in your last three home games against the Phoenix Suns. As I said, the Mavericks are a hard team to beat. Being a Clippers fan and playing them the last 2 years, they're really hard to beat when they are shooting the ball from the three at a 40% clip for the entire game. I mean, Luka Doncic is going to do what he do as he always does, averaging, what is it, like 39 points in the elimination games and all of that, and even averaging probably 30 points in both the first and the second round, if I'm not mistaken, or pretty close to averaging 30 points. I mean, this series is going to come down to the role players. As I said, you're going to need games from Jalen Brunson, Reggie Bullock, Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, Maxi Kleber, so on and so forth. You're going to need them to be dialed in on the offensive end, similar to how they were in Game 7 versus Phoenix. And you're going to need them to play great on the defensive end. I won't be surprised if they kind of send doubles or send a double team or sort of a trapping defense on a pick and roll like they did Devin Booker late in the series versus the Suns. I won't be surprised if they trap or double Jordan Poole or Steph Curry, similar to how they did Devin Booker. But I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how their game plan is and what they do defensively to combat Steph Curry, Jordan Poole. I mean, they're going to get there probably 20 points regardless, but it's going to be interesting to see how guys like Klay Thompson and Andrew Wiggins play a role in this series. And I'm going to say that's probably going to be it for this episode of the 4 out and 1 podcast. I am recording this at 11:35 on Monday, May 16th, right the day before the first game of the Eastern Conference Finals. It's been your host, George Hamilton III, and I'm out. Peace.